Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Asif Chowdhury, Aroved International Group. Topic: Value-based venture capital, establishing a sustainable ecosystem for the investors and startups.
Thank you. Thank you very much to everyone. And it's a great opportunity for me to connect with you. And good afternoon to all our European friends, colleagues, well-wishers. I'm connecting with you from Perth, Australia. Interestingly, it is an important topic. And just let me represent you one more time that I'm working at Arrowhead Group as a corporate value officer. Arrowhead Group, it's based in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So, as the moderator mentioned, that I'm going to talk about the value-based venture capital, establishing a sustainable ecosystem for the investors and startups. In general, regardless, is it value-based venture capital or any kind of business, normally we try to focus as a business personnel about our pains. We like to identify our pains, priorities, and we look for the solutions. That's human nature. That's very common as well for the business fraternity. And our main key drivers, so whenever we are talking about organizational structure, that we are the people, we deal with the process, and we take initiatives. That's very common phenomena, and that's generally all acceptable. There's no issue at all. But we just need to keep in mind that three key drivers, because my upcoming 14 to 15 minutes of discussions, it will be related with people, process, and initiatives. That means people are involved with the processes for implementing initiatives. So that's the motto we need to keep in our mind, so that once we're going to go through the discussion, it'll be very much easier to understand. And whenever we are talking about people, that means we are referring to individual behavior. Whenever we're referring to the process, that means we are trying to indicate the ecosystem behavior. How does it impact to the society? How does it impact economically through that process? So there's a behavior involvement. And once we mention about initiatives, that means we are talking about that's something we are about to initiate. It'll go to the end user, and they'll have some reactions, either positive or negative. They'll have some impacts, either positive or negative. That means here, market behavior is involved. So for people, individual behavior; for the process, ecosystem behavior; and for initiatives, market behavior is involved. But we need to connect somehow, somewhere, someday. And this is the time to connect with values. Individual, they have their personal values, and process and initiatives, it belongs to the organization. It's part of the organizations. So here it comes through the organizational values, core organizational values, or you can call it core corporate values. So once we connect people, process, and initiatives with values, it may probably give us the opportunity to establish a value-based sustainable venture capital ecosystem. Now, let me just start sharing with you some of the findings and some of the things that we are going to propose. But we have just divided into two segments, one for the investors, another for the startups. Let me start with the investors' perspectives. In terms of the pains, that in general, they're very much worried about uncertain risk, unmeasured timeline, unknown return. When I'm going to get the return, whether at all I'm going to get my money back or not, whatever the amount of investment I'm making, and the timeline, how quickly I'm going to get it. It's like very much core threats they feel. But prior involvement factors, that means prior involving themselves to any stakeholders, investors group, they think about, okay, what will be the information flow? Will be the portfolio management? How much engagement from my part it requires? What's the situation of the competitors? So these are their prior involvement factors. Once they feel that, okay, sounds good, I can be involved, then they go for another level of fear or another level of, a little bit uncomfortness, which is like they start thinking about exit plan strategies. That, okay, today I'm going to invest, but how I'm going to, go out through this process safely, securely, and successfully. And also they're worried about their consistent and continuous engagement, management process, and also governance is the issue. So these are the common pains investors' perspectives. On the other hand, if you talk about, how they're going to measure their success or failure, it's in general, they would like to position themselves in the market. They would like to secure their investment. They would like to make sure return on investment will come back very, very soon, within less payback period of time. At the same time, they'd like to also make sure that human capital will be nurtured well. That means through their investment, human resources will be transformed as human capital, and if they will pay back something to the society, that means it's going to impact to the society, and it will, have ecosystem inclusion, less wastages, better growth through expansion, more profitability, and automation. The thing, in the year 2023, there's no other way rather than adopting and embracing and empowering the automation process. So these are the general mindset and general KPIs in the mind of the investors in general. And how to bridge these two P's, that means pains and priorities, for the investors' perspectives. They need to consider 3C. They think that we need to go for collective investors approach. They think that we need to go for cyclical investment, not like one-time investment approach. They think we need to make sure the economy is circulating. That means circular flow of income is there. At the same time, in their strategy, they also consider vision alignment. That means their core corporate vision or values or targets or strategies must be aligned with their national level, the way government is thinking. And also, they cannot be isolated. It needs to be also matched with the global, platform or global benchmark. You cannot just win alone. You need to embrace others, because your win, it impacts other people as well. And but for the investors, they need to make sure that they give some sort of independence. They need to make sure they will work together with the startups, but at the same time, they cannot do parenting. They can just only extend their hand as a partner, as a partnership approach. They need to embrace also innovation, and also they need to welcome diversity without any destruction. So these are the strategies that investors do consider based on their pains and priorities to bridge them up. If you look at now in startups' perspectives, they have also certain pains. If you talk about the general pain, they need more capital. They said, oh, I've got cash flow problem. Oh, there's no sustainability alignment. We are always confused. They're going to say, oh, no. I cannot buy the experience at that cost of expense. They just derail through the timeline, waste a lot of money, and yet to get the experience. And also, another issue is like they go for quick wins, shortcuts, and they're very much greedy about the growth. These are the generic issues or pains that startups are having. But if you talk about and look at their identical niche, they cannot make well planning together with investors. They can't perform. Performance is the issue. Market penetration is the issue. Market positioning is the issue. So a little bit everything is isolated. Comprehensive integration is missing from their perspective. So what they need to do, they need to prioritize the behavioral transformation. They need to have a very, very strong ownership that, no, let me do it. I'm responsible whether it is good or bad. They need to make sure the business is stable. So they are worried about that. So it's in their priority to stabilize the business and the performance, and then to make sure it's not financially losing concern at break even. They would like to, deal with the investors as a friendly manner, not like just autocratic manner. They would like to also try to reduce the cost and goodwill and trust from the stakeholders, from the customers and clients as well. Then they need to keep on aware of the situation all the time, and they need to be agile. They need to be flexible with their actions. So, how to bridge from startups' perspectives? There are two P's, that means pains and priorities. We can understand that they can go through certain strategy. And what's a strategy? 3G consideration, that they need to groom them up well with the guidance and with the partnering mode of mindset from the investors. They need to keep on gaining, because if they don't gain financially and by reputation wise, they cannot grow. So gaining and growing, it's interdependence. So they need to obviously, come out with a successful venture. They need to succeed. They need to make it profitable. And once they can make it profitable, they can grow and expand their businesses. Same time, they need to make sure they're aligned with their mission. Being a startup, you should have your own authentic identity that you are not going to compromise. That's going to isolate you from other startups. That's very important to have your mission with determination, but same time, it needs to be aligned with other stakeholders and investors. So what they need to do, they need to focus on more adaptation with authenticity. If they do adapt, which is going to create cause or harm of their authenticity, that's going to create a negative impact onto their branding. Then to apply the strategy, as a mode of inclusion with their own identity, and they need to grow with goodwill. Not artificial growth is expected here. Good trust, very important. Good reputation is important. And then if they can grow, that's the healthier growth. Now, so far, I've just tried to share with you from investors' perspective and from startups' perspective, their pains and priorities. And then based on their pains and priorities, we try to strategize what could have been their proposed solution or way out of the situation. After then, what we can do now, if we analyze both of these investors and startups' pains and priorities, then we can come up with very much like common 12 key focus areas. So if you just look at from my left diagram, that shows the key focus areas from both sides, investors and startups. Their focus is on funding, operations. You can see this number. I'm going from 1 to 12. Number 3, like their focus is on growth. Everyone wants growth. Who doesn't want? Investor wants growth. Even startups, they want growth as well. They would like to build a capacity. They would like to go for innovation. They would like to go through the market research. They would like to understand about market behavior, and they would like to, accordingly change their strategies, and they would love to be profitable. They would like to make sure everything, whatever they're doing, it's impacting to the society and it ensures the sustainability, and they would like to go for agility with agile approach so that, they can adjust themselves with any sort of situation. And decision-making should be there by the investor side and also from the startup's point of view. And finally, cultural alignment. Who doesn't want? They cannot have their own land where they're going to be isolated from anywhere. So they need cultural alignment wherever they're doing business. So these are the common 12 key focus areas. And whenever we connect them, we can connect them with the values. Here, look at number 1, funding. Here, if you just look at it, it connects with integrity. It's a value. Number 2, it goes with excellence, responsiveness, creativity and team, performance, transparency, improvement, commitment, quality, safety, cooperation, diversity. Look at number 11. Here we said decision-making, but decision-making with dedication. That means dedication is a value. Number 12, we said cultural alignment with beliefs and respect. And beliefs and respect, these are the values. So that means we can connect investors and startups' key focus areas with core values. So my appeal today in front of our great audience and our European friends and academics and business fraternity, let us value the values. There's no other alternate, and that's our connector. That's the thing, connect and unite us all together. So let us initiate in establishing a sustainable ecosystem for the investors and startups so that it can impact people, planet, and their prosperities. Thank you. Thank you very much.